Now let's get to function declarations. Function declarations have special syntax in Berlin. So they also involve a special form called fn. And then what you do is you give it any parameters the function may take. And then as the last parameter, you give it some block that it's supposed to execute. And these parameters are then accessible inside this block, but only inside this block, not outside this function. Now let's say we want to write a simple function, and that is the identity function. All it does is it takes some parameter, and then it immediately returns that parameter. And we can immediately invoke this by simply stringing the invocation to the declaration using these open and closing parentheses. And there you go. That's how the identity function works. It simply takes an argument A and then returns that argument immediately without doing anything else. And as argument A, we supplied the value 1. Of course, this will work for any kinds of values. So there you go. Now, like with the other special forms, if you're going to use a block and it only has a single statement, you can omit the parentheses, the curly braces. So in this case, it is important to realize if you don't see curly braces in a function declaration like this, this does not mean that this function takes two parameters and they're both called A. The last parameter in this argument list is always the block. It's not a parameter declaration really. So this reads the function takes a parameter A and then it immediately invokes a block that returns that parameter A. So these two lines here, this line and this line, are equivalent. And this is true for any number of parameters. Of course, function declaration can take any number of symbols that you want to assign when you invoke the function, and then either a block or a single statement of the thing that you want to do with when the function is invoked. Now, this is only how you define an anonymous function, because as you can see, we haven't given this function a name, so we couldn't invoke it later. All we could do is we'd have to invoke it immediately. So we can start to mix special forms. For example, we could say identity is a function that takes some parameter and then it returns it. And now we can invoke that function. And just to give you a slightly more complex example, let's say we declare a function that takes A and B, and then we declare a block that says computing, and then maybe we say log A and B, and then we, do something else. It doesn't really matter. Let's say we log done. Now we can, I forgot to, well, it's fine. We don't have to invoke it. Basically, what this does is it takes two parameters, A and B, and then it, as a last argument, it takes a block, and this happens to be a block that has multiple lines. So first it logs computing, then we're logging A and B, and then it logs done. Of course, this is a somewhat contrived example, but it just serves to show you that functions can take multi-line blocks, and they will execute everything with the lines in that block with the symbols A and B bound to the values that you pass in when you invoke the function.